Hi everybody, I'm Mike McCrory, and this is Would You Make It? In this video, I'm going to make a set of chess pieces out of firewood to go with the chess board that I made from firewood a couple of years ago. I'll start with the easy ones and just do the pawns, and then I will progress in difficulty with the remaining pieces in upcoming videos. So, let's get started. This wood, especially the spalted maple, has a lot of rot, so I'm going to have to stabilize it before I can turn the pieces. I'll start by weighing 8 blanks to see how much resin gets soaked in. Those pieces are 1.58 pounds or 720 grams. I've set up my vacuum chamber and I'm going to fill it with cactus juice wood stabilizer. It's a 2-part system, so I'm adding the contents of the small container and then I'll shake it up really well. This vacuum chamber that I have is large enough to hold 6 blanks, so I'll need to do this in 7 batches to stabilize all 34 pieces, including the extra queens, as well as a few spare blanks just in case I make a mistake while turning. I want to fill it pretty high, keeping in mind that a lot of this liquid will get soaked into the pieces. Then I will put this metal plate on top to help keep the pieces held down. I'll put on the rubber gasket, put on the glass top in place, connect the vacuum tube, and then connect my air compressor. Then I'll turn the valve and the air bubbles will start to form. I left this running for a couple of hours to displace all the air pockets with resin. Next, it needs to cook in the oven for 2 or 3 hours at 200 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 95 degrees Celsius, so that the resin can cure. I didn't think the foil would stick so much, so it took some time to remove it all. Now I will weigh the pieces again. They're now 1.5 kilograms or about 3¼ pounds, so they've basically doubled their weight by replacing the air with resin. This is going to make them much more stable when turning, and that will reduce the amount of tear out that would have resulted due to the rot. I'll mark the centers on both ends of each piece and then head over to the lathe to turn them down to cylinders. You can see that there are still some air pockets left from the insects, but this will add some character to the pieces. I had measured one of my ponds and drawn out all the important measurements, thinking that I would measure everything while turning, but I found it simpler to just hold up a pond to gauge where I needed to turn. I'm going to drill a hole into the bottom end so that I can add lead weights and then fill it with epoxy. Some people use a Forstner bit to drill a larger hole to hold pennies. In hindsight, that might have been a cool idea now that pennies are going to be taken out of circulation. The largest diameter is at the base, so I will start turning the base down to the correct diameter using a parting tool. I'm setting my calipers based on the dimensions of my existing pond that I'm using as a template. Now I will turn it narrower at the top, and then I will use my existing pond to mark the locations of the points where the diameter changes. A lot of people don't like to use a skew chisel because of the risk of it catching on the material, but I was pretty careful. You could also use a bowl gouge or a spindle gouge for this, but I like using a skew chisel here to get into the tight radius. You just need to be sure that it's only the supported part of the skew chisel that comes in contact with the piece you're turning, and then you should be okay. And then I'll use my bowl gouge to finish up the profile of the taper as it gradually narrows toward the top. It looks pretty close to the original. It'll be a challenge to make them all the same, but that's what makes this set a one-of-a-kind handmade set. Now I'll sand it through various grits, and I'll take all 16 pawns over to the bandsaw to cut off the bottoms. I could have parted it off on the lathe, but I prefer the bandsaw in this case since the other end of the pawn is not supported by the tailstock. The first couple of pieces took me a bit longer until I got into a groove, but I got it down to about 15 minutes per piece at the end. And that's it. After I've made all the pieces, I will add the lead weights, fill with epoxy, spray on the finish, and then add felt bottoms. So I gotta ask, would you make it?